Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who is always looking for ways to help sports teams to grow their fan base and reach through digital, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan, and you are listening to Sports Geek. This is episode 327 of Sports Geek. This week, I chat with Gavin Kirkman. He's the CEO of PGA of Australia. We'll learn a lot more about the golf landscape in Australia, and it's quite apt after you might have been watching the Masters over the weekend. As always, you can listen to Sports Geek on all good podcasting platforms. We're available on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Cast, my favourite, or you can listen to it at sportsgeekhq.com, where you can get all the archives of all of the episodes, all the links to connect with guests like Gavin Kirkman. Before I get stuck in to this one, don't forget you can always contact me via social media at Sean Callanan or Sean Callanan on LinkedIn. You can send me an email, sean at sportsgeekhq.com. I really do appreciate the emails that I get back, whether they be unprompted or maybe a reply to our Sports Geek News email, just so I know people are out there listening. So if you're listening to me every week and you're going, it's great catching up with Sean, but you're actually not talking to me, send me an email. Tell me what you're up to. If there's a way that we can help you around your digital strategy, how you're tackling a particular platform or a problem or a marketing campaign, I love to help. I love working with Sports Geek podcast listeners, especially. Let's get into my chat with Gavin Kirkman. He is the CEO of PGA of Australia. You'll learn a lot about the golf landscape here and how the PGA is very unique and different to other PGAs you might know from around the world. Here's my chat with Gavin Kirkman. Very happy to welcome Gavin Kirkman. He is the CEO of the PGA Australia. Gavin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much, Sean. It's great to be here, and what an exciting time to be talking to you about golf and sport in our country. Definitely is. And as I normally start, I sort of ask people how they got into the sports business. And for you, that sport is golf. But how did you get in the world of sport? Yeah, I'm born and bred in country Queensland, a little town called Boona, and had a mum and dad that was very active in sport. My mum actually played a women's sport at that stage called Vigoro, which was an old version of cricket, but it's still out there playing now. But we grew up just playing sport, whether it was swimming, whether it was cricket, rugby league. We played sport until we got called in home when the sun went down, and so love my sport. Got my first opportunity once I left school to work in a sports complex down in Ipswich, and to get me down there, my first sport and love of sport was squash, believe it or not. So I played at a level where I excelled as a junior, played and won a couple of state titles. I played for the country in a teams event, and it was a real passion. So I played squash more or less professionally from about 16 years of age till 19, until I had to go out and find a job and didn't train as much. But so that's how I got into it, and as I said, really led by my parents, and just had a passion for sport, any type of sport at that stage.
Yep. And so how did you find your way into golf? You've been in golf for a long time, and you've had multiple sort of roles in golf, but how did you find your way into golf?
Yeah. So part of playing sport, we were introduced to the game, a little 9-hole course. My grandfather, William Kirkman, was a +3 marker. So there was some golf talent in the family. My dad was the single-figure marker, but first opportunity was to be offered a job at Golf World, which still runs these days, which golf retail.
Yep.
Dennis Brosnan gave me an opportunity to work retail, manufacturer, club fit, make clubs. At that stage, he took over Callaway Golf, so I was involved in bringing the Callaway Golf brand to Australia through Dennis and the Golf World connection. And then probably my first real opportunity was after doing some business with the Japanese owners of Royal Pines. I was then offered a job as director of golf at Royal Pines Resort to open the resort back in 1990.
Yep.
And that was my first big job. I started there in the sort of junior management capacity and worked my way up there. I then went and ran a facility, another facility on the Gold Coast. But the big thing, PGA state executive in 2002,
Yep.
and found my love for sports administration coming out of resort and facility operations. So I had 6 years at the PGA in Queensland as state executive. Just love working for the professionals, but also found I was making a difference to the game of golf through working as a sports administrator, and just my passion for all aspects of the game, whether it was education, service, events. I was getting the opportunities, so diversity got really big then. And then I was lucky enough to move to Melbourne in 2011.
Yep.
Started down here as the chief membership officer, looking after membership and education, and then got appointed as the CEO in 2017. So nearly 40 years in golf, Sean, and still loving it. Can't wait to get out of bed every day. So.
It's a terrific way to go about it. I did want to ask you, the chief membership officer. It's not something that I see that often, but also it should be. Like, members are such a vital part, especially of golf clubs. Do you think that's when you started at the PGA? We'll dive into that, but like that first role, you having the experience at the different clubs and different resorts sort of gave you that understanding of what it was like, again, in the football terms, you'd say club land, but definitely the same in golf, understanding how clubs operate, why members are so important to golf clubs.
Oh, by all means. Part of working at one facility, a company called Club Corp that still operate in the USA, they owned 126 properties and a few outside, and on top of the golf facilities, about 250 business clubs, and it was all about the member. It was all about the 3 steps of service. What was key to keep the membership happy. So I got really good grounding, got really good education, spent a lot of time in Dallas, and that got me started in the importance of membership. It wasn't about an individual member. It was a member experience. It was a member event. It was a member activity. I then had the fortune that to have some time working with Morgan Stanley, that then sold Royal Pines Resort in around 2007 to 11 to RACV. And I was very fortunate to spend a couple of years with RACV, and what a member organisation they are.
Exactly.
2 million plus Auto Club members, and then 700,000 plus, and probably a lot more today in corporate members. So the real essence of member organisations I got exposed to. So when I was offered the job as chief membership officer for the PGA, I felt I was ready. I had a lot to offer, and knowing that the fabric and the cause of the PGA of Australia is its membership and the success and growth of the membership by way of also growing the game of golf.
Yeah, and so as we said, you're in that role and then became a CEO of PGA Australia in 2017. But before we dive into that and sort of get your view of the sport and what you're doing, I'd love you to explain, because we've got listeners in the States, when they hear PGA and they would understand it as it is in America. How is PGA Australia different, and how is it different when people think of PGA and PGA Tour and how all those pieces together? Can you sort of explain that for the listeners to say how things operate as PGA Australia?
Yeah, and I think we are quite unique, and what my predecessors and the boards with vision, globally in the global golf ecosystem, golf is more or less broken up into, and we'll talk about Europe and the USA. So You'll have the PGA Tour, and then you'll have the PGA of America, you'll have the LPGA, and you'll have the USGA. So they're your 4 key bodies in global golf, based in the USA, where all the numbers and all the golf courses are, and the R&D and everything going on with the game. And then in the UK, you've got the R&A, the Royal and Ancient, and then you've got the PGA of Great Britain and Ireland, You've got the DP World Tour, formerly European Tour, and then you've got the Ladies European Tour. So you've got those four bodies again, and that's more or less, how it's replicated around the world. In 2007, the first step started of change, knowing that our country is 26, 27 million in population. The business is very fragmented. So the PGA of Australia amalgamated and took over the PGA Tour of Australasia. So that was a step made back in 2007. Great vision and foresight, because bringing both organisations together made them a lot stronger and on the three core areas of those businesses, which is membership, which is the tour, and then also education. Since then, we've been working very closely with the ALPG, which was the ladies, golf, professional golf. Yep. We have come together with them under a dual membership and alignment of services. So we licensed the WPGA acronym to the ALPG. And that was the first step of coming together, dual memberships, bringing women in, because at that stage, the ratio of women members in our vocational sector of the PGA was about 4 or 5%. So that work that I've worked very closely with Karen Lunn, and I have huge respect. She's a great colleague of mine.
Karen attended a lot of the Sports Biz Zoom calls. So great to sort of know how that all works together and how effectively, you're working to grow the game across men and women's golf.
Yeah, and I think, we've highlighted that, through a couple of our innovative initiatives as well. But so in December 2022, Sean, we finally put a service agreement together with the WPGA Tour of Australasia. So, Karen, there's no change to that entity, because that's not what we wanted to do. But what we wanted to do was to be smarter in business and be smarter in our delivery of events. So we have a service agreement with the WPGA Tour of Australasia. And, as I said, I work alongside Karen. She's part of our leadership team now, and just a real asset for both the men and women to come together. So you can see the PGA now runs the vocational and the education, and we run the two tours. The other exciting part has been the alignment and working in collaboration with Golf Australia. Yep. And that's quite unique as well. And I'm talking to you now sitting in a purpose-built office, opposite Royal Melbourne at Sandringham Golf Links, and Golf Australia and the PGA of Australia are cohabitating, where we have about 110 staff working together. Collaboration, again, no amalgamation, no merge, but it's a very smart move for our sport. We're a lot more powerful and we're a lot more efficient as we continue to grow and share services as well.
And does that help you, like things like the Australian Open, bringing in, having the men's and the women's all playing at the at the same course and bringing different media coverage around that event? Is that pretty much because you've put in the hard yards of getting these relationships and partnerships together that you're all driving towards the one goal?
Yeah, by all means. And the Australian Open, we commend Golf Australia. That was very courageous to put those two iconic golf events, the men's and women's Opens, into one event. And we've done it now down in Victoria in 2022. We're excited about 2023, which we played in Sydney. But we also had to learn a lot. When you've got three national titles up for grabs, and the addition to that was the All Abilities, which really highlights, under the Australian golf strategy, our inclusiveness of the sport and where we're heading with the sport. But a huge success, and it just allowed our teams to work together, Sean. That highlighted collaboration that week, and it was only our first. The exciting part is we know how much better we can get, so we're excited where that event's going to go as a mixed event. But then you're still going to have the Australian PGA Championship as a men's event, and we're working on women's events so that we're still celebrating men's and women's professional golf. But with the Australian Open, it's a celebration of golf across all areas of the sport.
Definitely. And the thing is, you've been in golf a long time. Golf has changed and has evolved in that time. There's so many different forms of
of golf now, whether they be, the simulators. You've got new parties like Top Golf coming in. You've got, afternoon golf and only shorter form, like those kind of things. How has that changed from, your early days of working a club and it was, 18 holes on a Saturday afternoon and that's what golf was? How has that changed, the industry for the better, but also change what you do as an administrator?
Yeah, you've got to constantly think of change now. And that's why I think when young people come and join our organisation and when I'm out there talking, people ask me why I smile so much. It's probably the most exciting time, the most critical time for our sport. We've come out of COVID with a resurgence of our sport. The numbers are up. There's more people playing golf. But through COVID, we got together with the leadership of Golf Australia, with the leadership of the WPGA Tour. And why I say leadership, it's not just the CEOs, it's our senior management, it's our boards having a common vision to grow the sport. But the biggest thing we identified, Sean, was all golf is golf now. Yep. So, what I've seen all my life, like when I started golf, I couldn't go to the golf course with my father. My brother and I had to go on a Monday afternoon. He worked a 9-day fortnight as an engineer. We couldn't go near the club on the weekend. So he'd take us out and then we'd get checked to make sure our socks are up and our shorts were tucked. Our shirts were tucked into our shorts. Now we've come out and, everyone is welcome. There's words like, everyone is welcome, go play golf, instead of the barriers are breaking down, that members only, no phones, no caps. We're saying if you, whether you're a club golfer, belong to a club, whether you're a social golfer, but, public access golf, driving range golf, simulator golf, mini golf, Top Golf, holy moly. Yep. If you're hitting a golf ball at one of those formats, those alternate formats, you're a golfer now. Yeah. And when you get to a golf club, if you want to wear gym gear, if you want to come to the range here at Sandy, and you want to wear a T-shirt, as long as you've got enclosed shoes so that when you have toe drag, if you've got a swing that good, you're not injuring yourself. But, it's about fun. It's about technology. And the biggest thing I've said all the way along, I never ran a traditional facility. I never ran a private golf club. I always ran resort clubs. So we could be innovative and creative and do some crazy stuff and we'd be frowned upon. But now, over time, the next 2 to 3 years, the crazy stuff is going to be called more acceptable. That, I think the golfers are going to be looking for something a little bit different if we're going to keep them in the sport. And the other thing we've got to do in Australia is break down all our competition golf. You can go to golf on a Saturday and don't have to play a par event. Yep. It's an option. But, you go to the States and all their golf is played. You play in a nice group of 4 or 8 or 12. You count them if you want to. If not, you play best ball. It's about social connection, and it's about with all ages, whether you're with your family, your friends, juniors, seniors, old, young. Let's just get out there and have some fun and enjoy this wonderful sport, and at whatever level you want. And I think that's the perception that we want to look at changing a lot. And I think we've made big inroads in the last 18 months.
And is it very much a case of, you're not determining the entry into the sport? Because like you said, someone can have fun with their mates at a Holy Moly or a Top Golf, or, de-stress by going to a driving range and whack a bucket of balls. But then they start, being more interested to play, 9 holes after work, or starting to, organise a yearly golf trip to an amazing resort. We're spoiled for choice here in Australia and Victoria in particular. Is it that escalator that sort of people start getting a taste? They're introduced via some means. They might do it as a couple, that then they become more engaged with the sport, and then also potentially become a fan of the sport and attend the events that you develop. Is that sort of part of the overall plan in bringing more people in?
Oh, it is. Some of the numbers that we've got, and we're getting a lot of independent data, and this highlights the industry working together, so we can, put our resources and invest into data. But we've had 1.5 in 2022. 1.5 million Australians played golf on a golf course. And that's a really exciting number when you know that we've only got 450,000, and that's increased since COVID. So it was 400 to 450. So that's exciting number. That's how many new people come and took up our sport, and our job to retain them. The other exciting part is, Sean, 1.2 million played golf off course.
Yeah,
so they played at driving ranges, they played at simulators, and they also played at mini golf facilities. And the numbers that we do like coming out of that report is 43% of the off course was women, but only 24% on the on course was women. So we're learning that, one of the core markets coming out is women and juniors, but women are feeling more comfortable starting off their golf journey off course, not on a golf course with so many rules and regulations and the pressure of playing a golf hole and hitting the shot. So we're really seeing that change, and that's exciting because you go to some facilities and there's Wembley, over in WA, and you've got Yarra Bend, you've got Toowoomba City. There's some great facilities around the country, Maroochy River. They've got driving ranges, they've got mini golf, and they've got a golf course. So normally someone comes in and they play on the mini golf and they go, this is fun. But while they're playing the mini golf, they'll see someone hitting a ball, maybe with the technology, and then they'll see someone out having a bit of fun on the golf course, and they can visualize the transition, and that may be them. But we're not worried if they just stop at being a driving range player and a ball hitter on the driving range. And then you've even got a facility, Cobram Baruga, out in the Murray. They've got everything I just said, plus they've got simulators. So when it gets either too hot or too cold out there, and they've got the tourism, the visitation goes through, they can pop inside, and they've got 4 simulators sitting in their huge clubhouse. So you can see it really changing. And so people want to play the game under all these formats. And I think we've got to welcome them as golfers. And Golf Australia are doing a great job at the moment. They're getting some technology platforms on board so that whether you're a club golfer or whether you're an off-course golfer, you can still feel part of the Australian golf family. And that's something that's going to be very innovative, and you'll see come out or be rolled out around the country very soon.
And you mentioned a massive resurgence in post-COVID. Obviously, golf was the COVID darling, I suppose, from a sport point of view. Wide open spaces, fresh air, social distancing is not a problem. So a lot of people took up the game, and in the years past, you've seen from strength to strength. But it's really about locking them in. I talk to mates that play golf, and it's a sport that infuriates, frustrates. Makes you feel amazing one day and then gets you back on the course. Is it just that's the game does a lot of it, but then you've also got to provide the programs and the content to keep drawing them back?
It is. Retention's so important at the moment. So instead of talking about a round of golf, we've got to start talking about a golf experience. It's not a game of golf. Let's get people out to have some social connection, time with their friends or family. And the best part about our sport, can be grandparents with their grandchildren. That's how a lot of the game starts. So I think we've got to be very careful about our retention post-COVID. We shouldn't become, complacent. We shouldn't become, oh, well, we've got them now, we've got a wait list. I think we should keep our foot right down, because it's everyone's second and third sport. It may not be the first sport. If young 25 to 30-year-olds still wants to play their footy of any code, or their tennis or cricket, that's fine. But at least they've had a taste of golf in COVID, and we should not let them go away. So the way we speak to them, engage with them outside the golf course, technology and IT is very important. One of the things, coming together with Golf Australia, the WPGA Tour, between us, we have about 20 websites, Sean, and we're just, working at the moment on a domain name called golf.com.au, and we're going to have one funnel, and we're going to catch up to the other sports, because, the other, iconic sports in Australia that do well, especially the football codes, and NBL and so forth, we've got to make sure all our consumers of our sports are coming through a funnel. and they can find out about anything in golf in any state, in any region, to have their fix. And we know the game's addictive. What you just said, you can play really bad, but when you play good, you want to go back out again as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other thing I want to ask, you did mention it briefly, as the PGA as an educator. Why is that important, and what are the things? Who are you educating? What are the programs you're rolling out, and why is it important for the membership base?
It's one of our core business, education. So, for a long time now, we've had our membership pathway program. So that's how we bring and graduate PGA professionals into a full qualification. So in that area of our business, there's roughly 2,700 PGA professionals. We've grown the ratio. That was, globally, it's about 4 or 5% in women. We're growing that. We're up to 7. We want to get to 10 to 15 to 20. And that's, working closely with Golf Australia. The WPGA Tour will bring more women into a career in golf. But we're also an RTO, and we're also CRICOS registered. So outside our, what our members need, which is a diploma of coaching, a diploma of management, we work closely now with Golf Australia. We want to become the industry educator. So we've recently launched and opened our PGA Learning Hub out of the Sandhurst office. Within that community, we've partnered with Holmes-Glen. So the 6 key areas that we work on in education, the PGA will deliver coaching, business retail, and will also deliver management over 2 levels, a diploma of management, advanced diploma. And all those programs in management can lead into articulation into universities. The partnership with Holmes-Glen has worked really well. So their key areas are agronomy, hospitality, and then events and tourism. So anyone wanting a career in golf, we've got a responsibility to bring them in through a golf-minded training program to ensure that when they hit the industry, they're fully across the industry trends, the balances, what's working, what's not. And, and I think that's the opportunity, and that education part. Sure, our members are very qualified. They're the experts in the game, and it's something that we do, we do promote, just across coaching and key golf business. But then there's going to be people like myself that couldn't reach the playing requirement to be the best coach or to graduate. So you want people to come in and say if they want a career in golf, and I can recommend it to anyone listening today. It's kept me happy for 40 years and hopefully a few more. But we want people to engage in any part of the industry, and that's why education is important. Being so strong down here in Australia as well, Sean, we're CRICOS registered, so we also educate Southeast Asia as well. So we have students coming down from Vietnam, Singapore. We've just done a big program in Malaysia where we're going to take our programs, and we're on a platform as well, an e-learning platform. So you can do education online, face-to-face, or a little bit of both. And I think it's important that, Australia being so strong in all the states across education with universities, that we're still, offering a strong education program for international students as well as our domestic students. So a key part of our business.
And I mean, again, a growing sport and a really good career option. So if you're looking, hey, what do I want to do? You're doing the training, it's specific, and then once you're in the world of golf, yourself, there's a lot of abilities to move around, whether it's from clubs to different clubs to it is an international sport. There's international travel available and those kind of things. So it is one thing I did want to discuss with you is ways to engage new fans, and sports are always looking to, what are the tweaks we can make? How can we change up the broadcast? I wanted to talk about the Athena format and how it's different, how it came about, but why it's exciting.
Yeah, it's a great innovative event, and hats off to Matt Burgess from Evolve Sports and Karen Lund from the WPGA Tour. They got together. The common goal from both of them originally was to promote young women in our sport. but not in a tournament environment. Let's just promote that this sport can be fun, highlight the skills that are needed to play the sport at a high level, but just create a format that's going to be easy for television, because that's what the broadcasters are looking for. There's a lot of 4-round golf, a lot of 72-hole golf, and it is exciting. But if we want to attract a new audience, that is young, fun, and fresh, let's create something innovative. So, day one of the Athena is skills test. 12 young girls come in. They start their week having a bit of practice. They have media training. They talk to, there's interviews done and so forth by some very qualified people, Sam Squires from Fox Sports and Tiffany Cherry, because they're coming in with their golf credentials very high. So they play a point system. They play incredible shots on day one. And then out of the 12, 8 then go through into a 3-hole match play format, which is a lot of fun. But instead of when they get onto the tee, there's music. A couple of the girls had all the moves going, but they can listen to music. They can get the rap of the crowd, and then they can go and hit a wedge into about 2 foot and make the putt. So it highlights the ability, but it also was bringing a lot of young women to the viewership on Fox Sports KO, but it was also bringing young women to the event and saying, I want to be like them. It's the role models for our sport. So, hats on to them. That's going to continue to grow. PGA Australia and Golf Australia have both ventured in, so we're also part of that event now. We won't change anything that Matt has done, because it's a great model, but I think he just wants to expand it now and grow it, and to make sure the viewership and the commercial partnerships continue to grow. And each year we have 12 young women. There's this sort of bit of a combination of juniors and the pros that are just about to venture out on tour, or some of them have got cards around the world making that next step. So a lot of fun. Yeah,
I mean, and again, broadcasters like Fox Sports KO love that. Hey, it's new, it's fresh, it's bringing people in, and that type of content fits for these newer platforms. You might find out about golf via a TikTok or via an Instagram reel, and go, hang on, there's golf and there's loud music. Hang on, these things don't go together. So it sort of you get that brain schism of watching it, and you go, oh, okay, now, and then you can lean in. So yeah, really, really exciting.
And Sean, the other two things when you're talking about what's different to get the different audience, the WebEx Players Series, again, WPGA Tour and our team have come together from the PGA Tour of Australasia. 4 events this year, all broadcasted, 60 men, 60 women, elite amateur girls, elite amateur boys, and then juniors joining, coming in. So playing on the one course for the one lot of prize money, moderated tees to suit both players, and a lot of work went into that. But imagine, the young golfers, so they're on our tour. So, from a professional golf tour point of view, they're order of merit events, which, we're trying to get them to play serious. They're playing for their future and rankings and status. The elite amateurs who are just ready to transition into professional golf are getting to see how their game stacks up against seasoned and rookie professionals, players on tour. But then these 9 juniors that come in over the weekend are playing in the final groups on a broadcasted event. And that audience, imagine the families of those 9 young junior girls and boys. They're on television. They're just nice young golfers playing off single-figure handicaps. The next minute they're coming down the straight with Hannah Green or Sarah Jane Smith, David Micheluzzi, and they're going, wow. And I think when their friends and their peers, their school friends, it doesn't have to be golf club members, they're going, this sport's pretty cool, and it's really well, and our commercial partners love the WebEx series. They're called the TPS events, but we just had 4 very successful events around the country. We hope to have 6 on the schedule next season. So that's something we're really proud of, and it's a promotion of our sports and the men and women and girls and boys all coming together. And that's something you can't do in any other sport. So we've got to highlight our uniqueness. And, we know it's a game for life, but we also know it's a game where we can blend men and women together on the same sporting field, and then also let them compete against each other as well.
Yeah, well, the marketer and the storyteller in me is looking, in the long future, in 8 or 9 years' time, and one of those young golfers, got that experience on the stage and the bright lights of, being on television, and then they're competing in a big tournament, and that sort of help them become a better golfer and perform on the big stage around the world. So yeah, the opportunity is amazing for those young golfers.
Yeah, and Sean, one of the things which is important, a lot of people say, well, this season we broadcasted 16 events, and back in the halcyon days of our sport, we used to broadcast 12, and that's when Baker Finch and Grady and Norman and Davis and all those great players, and Nicholas would come down. But the exciting part is, in our sport, which is highly competitive against the big codes in Australia domestically, you can't be what you can't see. And that's why, this innovative format for our next generation of golfers to come through, we have a responsibility, the administrators of Australian golf, to put our sport on platforms that's going to be accessible for regional, if they can't get to the event, for our regional young golfers, but also seasoned golfers, to be able to showcase our sport. And that's what we're doing through these events. So I think it's really important that we continue to do that. We're committed to do that. And we've got great partners in our production crew, and we're, the great relationship, and that's Jam TV, but working with Fox and KO. And then we work with Nine on the big broadcast of the Australian Open and so forth. The other thing we've highlighted through the Australian Open and through the WebEx series, also the Vic Open, was the All Abilities. The inclusiveness of our sport was just to promote to anyone that, anyone can play our game. And, All Abilities and the programs we do through the PGA professionals and our All Abilities coaches is to bring these people with injuries or disabilities back into society through the game of golf. And that's something that we will continue to do. We want to get golf into the Paralympics. We're working hard all the way through Commonwealth Games and so forth. So, it's also a key priority for us as we diversify our sport across all parts of the business.
Terrific. Gavin, we were both attending Sport Next conference here in Melbourne just recently. What were some of your key takeaways from the days, whether it be content on stage, you were someone who was on one of the panels, but also, the networking and the conversations that were happening? What were some of your takeaways or inspirations from the conference?
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely great, for the government and Left Field Live to pull that together. But key takeaways from some of the great speakers, was that we have to be courageous and keep moving with the times. We can't, if you're a sport that's not going to make some bold decisions from time to time, you will be left behind. So technology is important. Broadcast and building broadcast to suit how everyone wants to take the broadcast on, whether it's, watching events on your phone while at the park, on a train, or in front of the screen at home. We've got to make sure we build content, and it can't be content that goes for 6 or 7 hours. It's got to be shorter versions, and we're mindful of that. We've got a sport that does take time to play, so we've got to make sure that we work closely with our production companies to ensure we're working on that. We've got to continue to build the key message, core at the moment, and huge opportunities, women and juniors, and we've got to make sure that all sports, and you can hear from what I've already said, we're focused on accessibility for women into our sport, and also finding time as custodians of golf in particular. We've got to make sure, are we constantly working on who are the next golfers we're going to introduce to the game? Golfers can get very selfish and say, well, I don't want any new people at my course. They're going to make things slow. I think all golfers out there, we've all got a responsibility to be custodians of the game, and what are we going to do and how are we going to introduce that next generation of golfers. Commercial across these sports next, you've got to make sure your partners have got value. You're going to be measured, so you've got to make sure that you can offer the value back to your commercial partners. And innovation is going to be, look at your sport and continue to look at your sport through so many different lenses, and what will come out will be, exciting things for our sports. The other thing that was really important, speaking to a lot of, great administrators and legends of all sport in Australia, was, focus on the fans.
Yeah,
it's a fans first. Commissioner Jay Monahan spoke, and we were lucky that he really painted a great picture of golf. But fans is the priority. They talk to the fans, they talk to the players, and then they talk to the partners. And you've got to make sure that your fans, however they're going to consume your sport, that they're happy. And what we've seen a little bit come out of COVID, listening to the football codes, is people are, well, the broadcast is that good. Do I have to go to the live game? And we're a bit like that in golf. What have you got to do at the live event to make sure they just say, well, I could sit at home and have an afternoon party and watch, the Storm beat the Roosters. Or do I go to the game and have the atmosphere? So, that's one of the things that I talk about a lot in my panel session. I spoke about the party hole, Sean, which is a lot of fun. That's our first corporate hospitality. So, and people that went to the party hole weren't golfers, and it was really good. It was a nice balance of men and women. There was a lot of fun. There was a lot of music. The players were happy. So that was talking. We built something for the fans. We spoke to the players on how we were going to operate it. And then, we made sure our partners invested in, and our partners are investing into that area of the golf course, which is, has a lot of synergies and of the big event at the Phoenix Waste Management. But it was great to see party holes in Australia on Australian golf. So, and there's going to be a lot more that'll come out to create that experience and bring a different audience.
Yeah, definitely. I was chatting with someone, and I feel like experience is the word that's coming out of COVID, and it's not just what's the at-home experience like, what is the broadcast experience like, and then what is the live experience like, and really making that the absolute pinnacle. Because you're right, you want big TV numbers, so you want people tuning in, and you want good streaming numbers, but that also, you need good crowds because it enhances that product. So it is the push-pull that every administrator has, but it's a challenge you want to tackle. It's an exciting one.
Yeah, and Sean, it was interesting. You're right what you're saying, that, when we had to watch events, through COVID behind closed doors without crowds, it wasn't as easy to watch as a, very excitable crowd in there, making a lot of noise. And so I think, the fan experience, and getting that balance right is really important for us to grow events. The other thing I was going to talk about, with so many events having government partners, the fan experience at the sporting event is really important, because it's about economics then, tourism, because, that's a sleeping giant in our sport, is tourism and the potential of tourism, because we don't have that data, but just how many people are traveling with golf inbound and outbound, and then coming in from overseas. Because, we said earlier, we've got the best golf courses globally, sitting in every country. Everyone's got a nice point of difference. We've got the Sandbelt, some great Sydney courses, the Four Reds in South Australia, Lake Karrinyup, and great courses in the West. And then, also, Queensland, New South Wales have a great mixture. So we're spoilt, but getting people to travel and building experiences all around, I think is really important as well.
Terrific. Well, Gavin, really do appreciate you taking the time. I want to go into the Sports Geek closing 5. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended?
I do, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but it was a state of origin, the biggest one, a state of origin match. I went down with my mate who played in a curtain raiser game from Boona. I think I was 13 or 14, and New South Wales beat Queensland, which I was very upset about. Chris Anderson, I think, kicked the winning goal. It was at Lang Park, but it was the night that I can remember from go to woe, and so that was my first big experience and big sporting event.
Oh, well, you went right to the top shelf there to go to a state of origin, but yeah, it would have been a terrific memory. You would have gone to a lot of sports events in your time. Is there a favourite food memory or a go-to food when you go to an event?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I'm quite spoilt here as well, but in 2010 I had my first Masters experience, and I went over. And I wasn't in a work capacity, and I'm very fortunate now. I get to attend some great major golfing events, sporting events with my job. But I went over there and I just had a general admission ticket, and what I could get for $10 and the quality of the food at Augusta. And I know a lot of people do talk about it, but it's branded the Masters food. It's the best, corned beef sandwiches. It's cookies. It's beer or soft drink, whatever you want, fruit. And the sandwich that I had over there, I think I had the same every day. I had a ticket that got me in every day, and it was a go back. So it was a lot of fun. I am still partial to sitting at a Storm game with my daughter behind the goalpost with a meat pie and a Great Northern beer as well. So.
Yeah, no, a meat pie does get an often mentioned, but again, talking about that experience, the Masters have held on to that food experience, and it's the high expectation. People who go there, they want the food, they know what the prices are. Every time the Masters comes around, you see the same photo of people taking a photo of the board, and the prices are still the same. The food is still the same, but it's part of the experience and part of the brand. And so, if they came and brought in other food, it would be like, oh, hang on, it's not the Masters anymore. So, kudos to them. What's the first app you open in the morning?
On weekends at the moment, it's footy, but I must admit, because of my job, I stay across every golf tournament. So it's every leaderboard around the country. I like to, keep an eye on all the men and women, our Aussie players playing at their best, just so if I have a conversation, I can talk about who's up there and who's not. On weekends, I follow my footies. So I just keep an eye on the score, because it's always a conversation point. Being a Queenslander living in Melbourne, if you don't, I understand AFL, but if you don't know who's beat who the night before, you don't get spoken to at golf, or whether you go to your children's sport as well.
No, exactly. It is pretty much a rule in Melbourne. Is there someone that you follow? It might be an author or someone online or a colleague that you admire that the podcast listeners should look up and follow?
Yeah, I've got into, probably not an author, but I've recently, I like doing a lot of walking, and I got into Audible. So I'm starting to, do all the books. And, I've done Matt Rogers, Jonathan Thurston, but one that I really liked, and I've since met her and had a chat. I played golf with her husband, was Ash Barty. I said, in my little comment the other day, who would I like to have dinner with, when Bailey asked me in that panel, and it was Jack Nicklaus, because I wanted to learn about how he won those 17 majors, but Ash Barty, I think, she's from Ipswich, I'm from Boona, and the way her career and what she does for young men and women, and of all people in Australia, and the way she handles herself, anything that Ash is talking on, or I pick up, I really listen, and take enjoyment in doing that. So probably the odd podcast, which is golf related. But the Audible books now, I recommend, jump on. There's a lot of really good stories in there from great Australians, but you can do some business stuff if you want a little bit of a charge and get motivated as well. So
one of my favourite Audible listens, and I think I probably do it once a year, is the Nike story, Shoe Dog. Phil Knight talking about the Nike story. A great listen. But and then again, the Ash Barty book. Highly recommend. My niece actually said, "Can I have that for Christmas?" I said, "I'm more than happy to hand a piece of Ash Barty and learn off a champion like Ash." Lastly, what social media platform is your MVP? So that might be a platform that you use personally, but then you also can answer it from a PGA point of view.
Yeah, so in my role from the PGA, LinkedIn is really good for me. You can find information, exchange information, and tell our story on key areas. So from a work perspective, I use LinkedIn, but I go in there and I find a lot of good knowledge of trends, of sponsorship, commercial modernisation, what other sports are doing. Instagram, I use a lot, and I've been educated on that by I've got 4 children from the ages of 19 to 35, and I've got a beautiful 2-year-old granddaughter. But Instagram, if I want to keep up with my children and see a lot of daily images of my granddaughter, Instagram. But I like watching. I don't comment as much, but just watching the trends come through there. Twitter, I'm not as big on. I'll get sent a lot of Twitter, and then Facebook from me is a little bit more family orientated. But can I tell you, our membership as a community page on Facebook, and it's a really good medium. You can send out newsletters, but the engagement, the way we have policy that sits behind our community page, and it's registered. You've got to come in and come out through the membership, but Facebook works really well with it's really got more membership engagement as well. So those 4 different platforms do different things for me. But
definitely. Well, Gavin, thank you very much. I assume that LinkedIn is probably the best place for people to reach out to you and tell you that they listen to the podcast, and please do so. Reach out, say thank you to Gavin, and hopefully I'll bump into you at a conference, or maybe even on a golf course someday.
I was going to say, let's hope at a golf course, or let's say a driving range or a simulator centre as well.
Driving range I could do. I've done Topgolf in a few different cities in my travels in the US, and the simulators are fun to have a hit. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
No, I thank you for the opportunity, and thanks everyone for listening as well.
Why not book a Pick My Brain session with Sean Callanan? Go to sportsgeekhq.com/pickmybrain.
Thanks again to Gavin Kirkman. You can send him a message on LinkedIn. His Twitter handle is Gavin_golf. Well done to secure that. But you can also reach out to him, Gavin Kirkman, on LinkedIn. You can just drop a comment, tell him that you listened when I posted on my LinkedIn, or reach out to Gavin and tell him that you listened. I really do appreciate the listener feedback that ends up going back to the guests. It's not a pleasant surprise for them, and they really do appreciate it. And I really do appreciate you giving thanks to those who have given up their time. And if there's someone that you know, it might be a colleague, it might be someone that you admire from far, that you think is doing a great job in the world of sport, whether they might be selling a lot of tickets, running a killer digital department, doing some great activations, installing some awesome tech in a venue, or anything across the sports business spectrum, I'd love to hear from you. You can just reach out to me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com. Just send me an email. Or if you want, you can go to sportsgeekhq.com/nominate and just nominate someone. I'd like to hear a wide range of voices and of people around the industry. So please let me know. And also, have you registered for SEAT yet? It's in Salt Lake City, July 14, 15. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT or go to seatconference.com. But I really do suggest you listen to my episode with Josh Barney, the new CEO of SEAT, on what he's planning. And I hope to see you there. Nothing like connecting with everybody in a conference setting, and SEAT is one of the best at it. So go to sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT, check it out. If you've got any questions, please send me an email. Happy to answer them. I just want to wrap up this week on the concept of always be selling. So I definitely come at digital and content creation and content posting strategies with a real commercial mindset. And so it starts when actually designing the content itself. So when designing your content, you need to have your audience in mind. It's very easy to fall into the rut of creating your content for all of your fans. And ideally that happens. Ideally it satisfies everyone, but it's really, really hard. Whereas when you start deciding the different audiences that you're trying to reach, you can really refine that content and really talk to that particular fan. So previous episode, I talked about digital personas and understanding different types of content will create action by those fans, because it'll hit a passion point or hit something that makes them do something. And so what I always ask, whether it be the content creator or a digital executive or your social media coordinator, is ask yourself, what do you want your fan to do with this content? It really, once you keep asking yourself that question all the time, it does change the way that the copy is, the copy that's supplied with it. It might even change some of the creative. It might change some of the wording and the text effects that you're putting on the image in the creative. Like, again, having that as a strong part of your brief. What do we want the fan to do? And some of it might be really explicit, asking them to enter, to click, to share, to like. And some of it might be more implicit, right? Hitting their passion points and getting them to do it naturally, and to know, that this is that digital face paint that you want them to signal to the world that they're a fan of your team. So sometimes you can get caught on that treadmill of content of, hey, it's Tuesday, we're going to post this. Hey, it's Wednesday, we're going to post this. But really, what you need to do is develop a culture that calls out that, hey, we're just on the treadmill. We're just posting because we've always posted, and this is what we post on a Thursday. So you want to have a culture where the team can call that out without too much recourse, but then also push your team to be in that sales mode. And what I mean by sales mode is to always be looking to further your fan along that fan escalator to help them level up. And so selling in a social and digital sense doesn't necessarily have to be sell a ticket, sell some merch, sell a suite. It can be, and it should be. You should be trying to get your digital team to understand the steps they need to do to bring a fan along that journey to get to that final transaction, because that's what we want. But some of the times selling will be just selling the concept of getting more people to comment, or getting more people to like, or getting more people to share, or how can you tweak your copy or the way you've built something to get more people to share an Instagram post to their story. Or how can you bring a fan that's seeing your content but not following your content right yet, not following your accounts, is seeing it as a byproduct of, you've done the first thing, you've got some of your fans to comment on it, so the visibility ends up with these new fans. How do you get that fan to now follow? So again, multitude of tactics, multitude of strategies. It's too hard to outline right here in a short form, but the idea is, how do you get them to take that action? And that action might be clicking through to buy, might be entering a competition, it might be sharing a post at the height of passion. Like after a game win, how can you put that post up that gets more retweets, more likes? How can you actually get them to your website? Like, what are the things you need to do, and what are the little actions and keywords and calls to action that you get them there? So it's one thing, to be designing, to be focused on the art and the creative and what it looks like, and be really proud of it, which I think you should be. But then the second part is always be selling. Always be selling. Always be getting your fans to go to your website, go to your app, sign up, and having a digital team that has that mentality works well with further down the pipeline, works well with your ticketing folk, works well with your membership folks, works well with your data folk, because you're getting them into the database. So, and then for mine, it helps with your KPIs. So that's it from me. Always be selling. I'll tell you that right now. Leave a podcast review. Please share this podcast with someone you love or someone you think should listen to it. That's me selling right now. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Don't miss out on the latest news and updates from the sports industry. Sign up for the Sports Geek News email newsletter today and stay informed on the latest trends, insights, and analysis from the world of sports. Sign up at sportsgeekhq.com. Want to help drive more revenue from your digital efforts? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. For more resources, go to sportsgeekhq.com.